a weird like audience kind of like having fun of it, with it, like 15 years later, which was interesting. But all right, so we're back up. We now have our full Q&A here. Everyone's here. So let's first bring up the filmmakers. So once again, director Paul Weitz. We have Craig Perry, who produced not only every American Pie, but my second favorite horror franchise, the Final Destination films. And then we also have super fans of American Pie, but that also got lucky, unlike me, and got to make one. We have John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg, director and writers of American Beauty. All right, so let's start with, of course, bringing back down our lead, the guy who screwed a pie, Jason Biggs. We have our famous guy that likes to go to the bathroom at his house instead of the school, which is just like me. So Finch, aka Eddie K. Thomas. And then I guess she's our resident female here representing for American Pie. She was so smoking awesome in Josie and the Pussycats that she's never seen wearing a full shirt. Yeah. She's always in a half shirt, literally the whole movie. Tara Reid. And then lastly, we have MILF guy number 2. He doesn't really need a name, but I mean, we've seen him in Star Trek, and then he's Harold from Harold and Kumar. John Cho. All right, so 15 years ago today, were any of you guys like in a theater trying to do the whole like, is the audience filled? Is it sold out? What's gonna happen here?
Well, I'll just start here because we actually got a bus and we had a whole bunch of the cast and crew go over to the Avco Cinema, which is actually no longer there, it's now the iPic. And we were sort of at the, I think I remember it was a midnight show, and we were like, wow, how's it gonna do? And there was a line around the block, and we got out of the bus, and the other show was coming out, and they were like, you're that guy, that's you! And we got mobbed before the sort of next screening started. It was sort of an indication that maybe this was actually gonna pull it off, we were gonna make it work.
I have no recollection of that at all.
I have pictures.
That's because we all
Was I
ended up
there?
at my house.
Were we there?
Yeah.
We were doing drugs
Yeah, we were
at
there.
Reed's house.
Jason, do not say that because I don't need this.
That's
Sorry, I don't. I'm kidding. We were doing drugs at my house.
And I supplied them.
Do you guys ever go back and watch these films just for like fun? Like
I have it on a constant loop in my house at all times.
Nice. It should be noted first off, like I said earlier, John and Hayden, even though they weren't affiliated with the first American Pie, that you guys went and saw it when you were in college, right? Opening weekend?
Yeah, well, you know, the opening night was my 4th time seeing American Pie,
Oh, wow.
actually. Yeah,
I think
good.
that's working.
I'll take the one that's working. Yeah, no, the first time I saw American Pie, I was a college student back east, and I went on a trip to the Cannes Film Festival through college, and American Pie was playing in Cannes. So the first time I saw,
Obviously.
yeah, exactly. So, obviously, so weirdly enough, yeah, the first time I saw American Pie was at the Cannes Film Festival. I fucking loved it. I called Hayden up immediately because at the time we were like young screenwriters hoping to try to make the first like R-rated youth comedy in many years, and this did it. So we were just excited. Loved the movie. And then like I lived in New York that summer. I saw it like 2 times at free screenings, and then my 4th time seeing it was opening night.
You bought a bootleg too.
I bought a bootleg on the streets of New York. I saw that bootleg earlier this week. I was cleaning out some shit. It was a VHS bootleg, and I still have it to this day.
That's actually a good point, though, that it was the first kind of R-rated film, because earlier I played some awesome 1999 trailers like She's All That, Can't Hardly Wait, well, not Can't Hardly Wait, 10 Things I Hate About You, Cruel Intentions. Tara has a brief awesome scene. But basically, you know, it was all these like kind of PG-13 fluff films. And Paul as a director and Craig as a producer, you know, we had literally nothing but 90s fluff from like 95. So how did you fall into American Pie as a director and a producer? But how did you, you know, make it different as a first really R-rated, raunchy?
I don't think. Sorry. I don't think it was the first at all. I mean, there'd been Animal House was sort of a big marking post. Honestly, yeah, Fast Times, which is fantastic.
It had been a long time. I think that was the big thing for people.
It's been a while.
The 90s was nothing but like people never being kissed and stuff.
It was like
that.
PG-13 movies.
Yeah,
It was the first high school movie that wasn't PG-13.
Well, actually, I remember going in to interview for the job, my brother and I, and the first thing that we did was I lied about having directed theater in New York, because I knew no one would check up about that, because we were in a Hollywood studio. So I want to thank Craig for being gullible. But also, actually, the Titanic had just come out the week before, and our angle on this, or our sell, was that we were going to try to make it more feminist than Porky's, which is not hard. But actually, that the girls were always going to be put into positions of power, and sort of in working with Adam on the script after that, we all sort of like tried to buy into that. Also, like frankly, like I think actually stuff that doesn't happen now, and that the MPA is like super squeamish about, is like the idea of cunnilingus or a woman having an orgasm is incredibly taboo. So that was one of the things I was really happy with what Tara's character is going through. But
Good night.
Being hard,
I'm on the wrong end.
yeah. So that was sort of our angle on it, actually.
Yeah, and Craig, when you stepped in as producer, I mean,
This
you were
came
with.
this came from an original idea that we had in our office that we gave to Adam to go write. And he took a stab at it, and he came back, and we threw out everything but the first 10 pages, which is the 10 minutes you see here. And then we sort of gave him some more notes, and he went off and built it off of that. And what's interesting is the pie scene itself was added about 3 days before we sent the script out to see if anyone would buy it, because we said there's a little kind of lull here. So if you look at the movie, outside of Dog Ear saying, "What's it feel like, warm apple pie?" and Eugene having the ad-lib saying, "It's better than baked goods," you could drop that scene, and it wouldn't impact the story of the trajectory of his character. But it's a serendipity it became the title of the movie. But I want to go back to one of the reasons why Paul and Chris completely distinguished themselves when we were sort of meeting with people that might take on the helm of this, is they said, "We know the movie's funny, we've read the script, it's funny." And they proceeded to talk about nothing but the characters, what the sexual experience would mean for each of them, how they wanted to moderate and modulate how they reacted to that first experience. They talked about characters and why we would care about these people. And to me, that is the thing that not only made them the perfect choice, but it's the thing that distinguishes this movie from all the other sort of morass of like Tomcats and the other teen comedies that came out, is you just care about these guys because you can identify with what they're going through, and you seem to know people like them. And a lot of that, if not most of it, is because of these guys directing the actors the way they did.
Yeah, I mean, it should be noted that Paul kind of ghost directed with his brother on this. He went to later do the Twilight Saga: New Moon, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, my brother. Yeah.
But speaking of the
Hold on.
MPA,
No. Yes, there's direction, but at that time, because they didn't write it, the DGA wouldn't allow you guys to have shared director credit. And we as producers said, no, because they both did a job together, we gave Chris the producer credit because he was equally responsible for how the movie turned out. It was an interesting fight. I remember that fight, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, luckily the Coen brothers have been doing it for a long time, so it was a precedent.
Yep.
all right, so let's just start off with the more silly, the pie scene. obviously there's two different versions. For all of us who watched it on like unrated DVD, there is a on the table pie fuck, and then there's the like in the corner I'm kind of shy with what I'm doing pie scene. How many times did you have to screw a pie?
Not enough.
And I also kind of wondered, why did you go with apple pie? I feel like cherry would make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, it's a great fucking question.
Special edition, digitally changed.
How many times did we shoot that? It was. I feel like we shot that scene all. It was like that scene took a day, or at least a half a day, right? Half a day.
It was pretty grim.
I do remember going back to my trailer and having to shower. It was the first time I'd ever like used one of those showers in those trailers. It was like pretty good, but I had to because I had apple pie bits all in the crevices and it's hot.
Well, I mean, we probably have a lot of actors and actresses in the room, but like, you're 20 years old when you...
Let's stop and laugh at that comment for just a second. Okay, go on.
But like, okay, so this is your like first theatrical feature. It's a huge deal to you. Like, how do you call your mom and like say, I'm in a teenage comedy, it's got like thematic elements, it's exciting, it's got a little bit of heart, it's a Universal movie, but I screw a pie. Like, did that conversation happen with like your parents, or did you invite them to the premiere and make a show of it?
I demonstrated for them when I went home. Before the movie came out, I was like, just so you guys know, this is what's gonna happen. No, it actually was very much like that. I remember telling them, well, because I'd been acting for a long time, but you know, I would get these jobs and I'd be like, I got this job and it's a movie and I promise it'll come out, and then it would never come out, and they'd be like, yeah. So I remember when I got this, I was like, no, this really, it's a movie, it's a Universal made it, and it's gonna come out, and they're like, okay, yeah. And then it started to, you know, actually become a real thing, and then I had to explain to them, because I knew they would want to come to the premiere, I would have to bring them out, and so I had to explain because I didn't want them to see it, and so I had that awkward conversation. I told them, and then I remember I took we had an advanced copy, that VHS, that you guys probably don't even know what VHS is, right? And so
It's like a big cassette tape.
yeah, you're answering it seriously. I love it. It's a cassette tape, you guys. It's like it's a tape. Thank you. And then I was like, here's the movie, and they knew about the scene, and then I went downstairs and I couldn't watch it with them, and I just remember like I would kind of pop upstairs and check in on what scenes they were at, and then I knew they were about to come to the pie scene, and I like waited and like I listened from down the hall, and they both cracked up hysterically, and I was like, oh, thank God, okay, this is all good. And then I still had to sit next to my mother at the premiere, and that was hot. So.
Did all you guys sit in on the premiere and watch it when it first came out? You did? Okay, well, Tara, I mean, you have some pretty, you know, content-worthy scenes, especially towards the end, obviously. Was that uncomfortable to shoot at all, in any way?
I mean, anytime you say any of the first movie, if you call it before this, The Big Lebowski, my famous line in that one is, I'll suck your cock for $1,000. So that one, I would take my father and my mother on the premiere of that one. So sitting next to my dad on that one was much more comfortable than the mother. And then the second one, when I'm saying I'm coming, you know, it doesn't really, first I'll suck your cock, then tell I'm coming, you know, it got a little, they were afraid my third movie was going to be, but you know, we went on from there. But yeah, no, it was fun, and parents get it, and they all turned out to be really fun films.
Yeah, no, they're all great.
Awkward.
No, it's all right, so Eddie, let's jump to you. I noticed that this time watching it, you actually play mini golf, like a lot.
Yeah.
Are you actually good at mini golf?
No, not at all. No.
Was that added later? Or was
No,
it-
you know what? When I first got the role, my father read the script, and he thought that character reminded him of who does Peter Riegert play in Animal House? That guy. Boom. Yeah. So it was my dad's idea, and then I brought it in, and then they put it in. Yeah. That's yeah.
Now, John, you don't even get a character. I'm going to bounce around. So you don't even get a character name, and a lot of actresses in here. How does that work? You showed up. You showed up for MILF number 2. Was that actually like a featured background, or did you actually know this was a character that's going to have several scenes, including choir?
First of all, I just want to point out that Eddie's wearing my hat.
Fact. Traded hat.
I'm wearing his hat. We traded hats at dinner. Just want that known. I was not MILF guy number 2. I was in the jazz choir, and that was all. And then I forget exactly how. What happened to MILF guy number 2? Was he ill or?
We made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Well, you did the reading, and you did numerous characters in the reading. We were like, we got to get John in this as much as possible. Like it had been, we cast him. And you just killed. So we were like, what else can he do?
Oh, okay. So I originally I was cast as just the jazz choir, and then I got the MILF guy number 2. So no, I did not know that the MILF guy would have a life beyond that.
Yeah, I mean that makes
Or
sense
an
because
entire porn subgenre.
well, it makes sense. Well, it makes sense because in Reunion you kind of have a much bigger role, obviously. But that's true. You were in choir, and Justin Ishfield, who's MILF guy number 1, wasn't in choir, so you should have had a bigger role in Reunion. All right, so how was the chemistry on set when you're making this film? I mean, Tara, you had done Urban Legend, which by the way is like my second favorite horror movie of all time. But you had done Urban Legend, Big Lebowski. Jason and Eddie were kind of new. You were certainly new. But even though you guys have separate scenes, were you always hanging out together, or did you kind of just shoot your own stuff by yourself?
Well, I've known him the longest. I actually went to high school with Eddie. So,
wow, I didn't know
that. So he was like little compared to me. What am I, 4 or 5 years older than you? Yeah, so back then, like, I was too cool to talk to him. Still hasn't changed, by the way. No, but anyway, so I knew him when I was little. And everyone on the set, we were all friendly together, but we didn't really hang out. I mean, once in a while. Again, I was still too cool for everyone. But yeah, we had fun, and when we got together, we watched the screening at my house, actually, afterwards, and that was a fun night. We had good times out, but it wasn't like we went out. Everyone kind of had their own lives, and when we come together, even making American Pie Reunion, when we come together again, it's like old memories, and it's old friends and good times, but everyone has their separate lives.
Yeah, and I mean, did you guys have any sense when you were, whether it was coming out, you're watching it before it's out on DVD at your house, that I know it's like, when you watch a movie like Pitch Perfect, none of those people knew that it was going to be like this huge pop culture phenomenon. And American Pie was not only the first big R of the late 90s, it grossed like $1 bazillion. Like it beat all of these other films by like twice their gross. Did you guys have any idea that it was gonna be this impactful? It was gonna be like 8 movies later?
It still surprised me. I was actually worried there wasn't going to be anybody here tonight. I'm serious. And I'm like, wow. And it's, it still surprises me, and it's funny. So
Look,
I get it.
I remember we were making the movie and we're watching dailies. We brought a 35mm projector down to a school and we're watching dailies on the wall because there was no money behind this thing. And we were like, wow, if this makes 30 million, won't that be awesome? But what happened was, it started bouncing around the release schedule because they couldn't really find a date for it. And when we first heard that, after the first preview, it was an incredible first preview. It was really remarkable to see everybody respond to the movie. And suddenly they said, hey, we want to release it in like 2.5 months. And we had no time to mount a marketing campaign to even penetrate any of the sort of other movies that were coming out for that Christmas. So we started screening it all over the country with like 10 critics and an entire audience like you people. And then the president of production was fired, and the movie was pulled from the schedule, and we started bouncing around. But once, like in March, when they started saying, hey, movies to look for this summer, our movie kept showing up on lists because all the critics had seen it, and they'd seen it in audiences like yourselves responding, and they knew there was something special. And that, I think, and coupled with the success of Something About Mary, the expectations started to grow. So we finally did land the release date, and we had a bunch of them until we settled on this one today, back in '99. There was the appetite had been building and building, and here we were.
Yeah, it had like a really interesting trailer when it first came out, because '99 also had like Star Wars, the return of Star Wars, and everyone was excited. But it was like, the trailer said like, movie line, the top summer films to see, Star Wars, and then American Pie, and then it jumps through like 5 others and it goes back to American Pie. Like, you guys already had like a fan base kind of going before the film was coming out.
What I remember about the trailer is like the trailer would come up and nobody knew who Jason was or anybody else, and there was a guy with a sock on his dick. And people were like, what the fuck is this? Did somebody like put their home movie up here like for a joke? Like, to fuck with us? That's what I remember about the trailer.
What I remember, you know, I was a college student at the time. When I saw the trailer for the first time, I saw the movie Cruel Intentions, and I remember being in the theater and seeing the trailer for this movie, and I left the theater and I called Hayden up and I said, somebody just made a movie that's going to be fucking huge. It's exactly what we're thirsting for right now. It had been, I don't know, Paul, it sounds like you didn't realize it exactly what we did. Like, we were, in college at the time, we were living through the 90s, going to high school there, and seeing only PG-13 comedies. Like, we knew of Revenge of the Nerds and Porky's and all that stuff from when we were like, we saw that stuff, but it was like when we were super young. And we're like, there needs to be a movie like this again. And that's what we were like, when we were writing, we were trying to do. We saw the trailer that night, and it was just like, that movie's gonna be huge. It was clear immediately from seeing the trailer.
Yeah, it's smart promotion to go around and do like little college screenings across the country, and then everyone wants to, I did that for Van Wilder. Second to my brother's screening of Van Wilder, I was like 11, and then that movie was a huge hit. So, with you guys just coming out.
Wait a second. Sorry. No, I was going to say something. That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say, sorry. First of all, Corey, you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
Give it up for Corey. You're killing it, bro. You're fucking awesome. I was going to say one more thing. The Red Band trailer.
Which is what we played here to market, by the way. I said we're playing the red band, not the green band.
Well, because that was the thing. Like now, online, it's like every movie has a red band. Even PG movies have like a red band. It's like fucking Wall-E has a red band trailer. Like, but at the time, it was like crazy to go into a theater and see that red fucking screen. Like that wasn't happening. And
it was the shit when a red band came on screen.
That was the shit is right.
We're about to see something dirty and we haven't gotten to the movie yet. But on set you guys had just... It's like a Tyler Perry movie, Dramatic Swifts, or like, whatever. No, but like, fair... Okay, so you guys had just come out of high school. John was 24. But you guys had really just kind of lived through high school, and then you made this movie. Did any part of your own high school life, the awkwardness, the coolness, the whatever, kind of play into your character in the first one? But the second one, you all like glammed up making like 20 million pictures.
Yeah, it was I was and still feel as awkward as that movie. Yeah. 1000%. And I was still in high school. I didn't go to my prom to go to that prom.
Speaking of like Finch's character, I feel like he's always been such a rebel. In the first two, he's kind of the first two, he's kind of off by himself. He doesn't even let his group in know that he's paying his way into like having sex. But
he's a big liar.
Yeah, and then obviously in the second movie he does Tantra a lot, which you actually took a workshop for, which is interesting.
Not nearly as hot as I hoped.
But I think you actually get the best character in Wedding and Reunion, especially in Wedding.
Better than Biggs?
As your character, yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think so too.
In the third movie, when he's the Finchmeister and he gets to battle Sean William Scott for January Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I think that your character really evolves in the third movie. But back in that first movie, he's such a loner and a rebel.
Yeah.
You know, did you guys get really hands-on with your character? Of course, you're reading
I
dialogue.
mean, I was just 17 and I was just standing where I was supposed to stand and
Were your parents
saying,
on set the whole time if you were 17?
No, and the annoying part of being 17 is that I really saw it when I watched this time. Everyone at the end of the movie actually is kind of having sex except me.
Yours is off screen.
I am all off screen.
Yeah.
And the question I get the most is, well, how was Stifler's mom? I didn't do anything. It's on a microphone.
Well, yeah.
Was that because I was 17 or are you just being a dick?
Yes.
You do have some great ADR lines, though. It's like,
Yeah,
hi,
ADR.
Stifler.
You can have it.
No, actually, legally, we couldn't even have Eddie kiss Jennifer Coolidge.
Fucking shit.
You made up for it in the sequels, though. So.
Not really.
Yeah, no, once again, even in the car in the second movie, that's ADR.
No, and then you see me go like underwater. Nothing happened. The fuck, man? I kissed Danya Ramirez in the movie you're about to see. That was fucking hot. But you know what? The thing you were saying about the loner, you know, John and Hayden, I thought, did a great job of capturing that in Reunion, and you know, for all the characters, what they, those kind of things that maybe it was from watching it as many times as you did, but they really caught the essence of what I think made that first movie work, which, again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And it was, you know, Chris and Paul and Adam who really steered me, at least. And I think John and Hayden did it as well.
Yeah, and shifting, I guess, bringing your character in Reunion and John Hayden, how did that work creatively? I guess let's start with the writers and the directors. Okay, so you got pitched from Universal to do the movie, to do a Reunion. It's like been 9 years. Unfortunately, Tara and Chris Klein, they weren't in Weddings, so it's like, where have they been for like 11 years?